Kendo Podcast by Hiro Mafuji from Kendo-Guide.com. Thank you for listening. This podcast is about Japanese martial arts Kendo for Kendo lovers and supported by Kendo enthusiasts through Patreon.com. Thank you for your support, guys. Please visit Kendo-Guide.com for more Kendo information and how to support Kendo-Guide.com. Welcome to Kendo Podcast episode 12, I think. Okay, in this podcast, first I would like to try a new thing, useful Japanese. I would like to share those, useful Japanese not only for Kendo people, but also for those who wants to learn Japanese. Of course, mainly for Kendo people, but Japanese is Japanese. So if you want to learn Japanese, I think this will be very useful for you. And also, I would like to go over why we are doing Kendo or train Kendo. Okay, first, useful Japanese. In Japan, it is very important to greet people. We bow to each other, that's one thing. And also, we have to say something when we greet each other, when we meet each other. Okay, important thing. Before, how do you do? Or, hajimemashite. That's how do you do in Japanese. But that's not the useful Japanese in this episode. Before that, we say good morning if you're in English-speaking countries, and buenos dias in Spanish-speaking countries, right? And in Japanese, of course, we have equivalent word for that, which is ohayo gozaimasu. Ohayo gozaimasu. That's good morning. And some people say ohayo. Okay, that's very casual. So if you want to say good morning in Japanese to your teacher, make sure you say ohayo gozaimasu. Okay? Without gozaimasu, it's too casual. Because you want to speak Japanese and you want to be, make them feel comfortable, let's become more polite, okay? So ohayo is good, but gozaimasu is the best if you are talking to Kendo sensei or people you don't know or people who are older than you. Of course, if they have close relationship to you, you can say ohayo. Okay, so if you don't know which one you should use, be polite, all right? And in the morning, it's ohayo gozaimasu. And in the afternoon, you say konnichiwa. Okay? Konnichiwa. English-speaking people, especially, I think, American English-speaking people, they tend to say konnichiwa. But it's konnichiwa. Okay? Konnichiwa. Okay? And then if you say fast, konnichiwa. And in the evening, we say konbanwa. Konbanwa. Okay? That's good evening or at night. Okay? But before you go to bed, we say good night. Okay? That's oyasumi nasai. Oyasumi is casual, and if you want to be polite, oyasumi nasai. Okay? So it's very important to be polite in Japan. So make sure if you don't know which one you use, choose to be polite. Oyasumi nasai. Okay? So good morning, ohayo gozaimasu, and good afternoon or hello, konnichiwa. It's more like good afternoon. Okay, in the morning we don't really say konnichiwa. Okay, so konnichiwa is more like good afternoon, and konbanwa is good evening, or around nighttime when you see people, konbanwa. Okay, and good night, oyasumi nasai. Okay, oyasumi nasai. All right, now let's talk about the Kendo training. I wrote an article corresponding. Basically, I wrote an article first and then I want to talk about it. I just wanted to make sure people understand it well. Because I'm not native English speaker, I might say it wrong. And if I have written version, you can go to the site, to the page, and then read it later, right? So I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. Okay, the meaning. We train Kendo because we like it, of course, and you want to be good at it, right? And I think it's the things we shouldn't forget. There's things we shouldn't forget as a meaning of keiko. Okay, keiko. Do you know? Have you ever heard keiko in Japanese? It's not a girl's name. Keiko. Okay, keiko. It spells Keiko, keiko. But when we say it, we use a long vowel, so it's not keiko. We say keiko. Okay, keiko. Keiko means a lot of people don't use that word in Japan, especially if your school kids. They say renshu. They are quite different, and I don't think there is a different terms in English to distinguish keiko and renshu. So we probably use to train kendo, right? Train something, train. Okay, but according to those dictionaries I looked up, keiko means to think and study about ancient times. To think and study about ancient times. And also the other dictionary says to think well about the ancient times or things by reading old books. So and now we use the term keiko is to train because of based on these meanings. But it's really kind of we learn about the past, basically. So in Kendo, the keiko is to inherit teachings from the previous times. So it's passing on from one generation to another. And the important thing is that you don't want to change anything, basically. So when my sensei came, we invited my sensei, Miyazaki sensei, from Japan in October 2015. My students said, "He teaches exactly like you do." And I said, "Of course, I never changed the way he taught me." So what I consider myself is like, just a messenger boy. I hope I'm more than that. But I don't want to change the teachings that I've received from my senseis. I don't want to modify it. Maybe I modified the way to deliver the message. That's because it's different culture. I cannot teach as I taught. So, I have to consider the cultural differences, cultural background, historical background, and I have to change the way I show my students. My students, they're not all from Indiana. They're from different states in the U.S. and also some people from some other countries. So I cannot teach the same. When I deliver messages, I have to change it. I do that, but I don't change the meaning, the core message of the teachings I received from my senseis. And I don't have to change the messages because my senseis reached the level I haven't reached yet. So why should I? They are a lot better than I am, and why do I have to change the messages? So Keiko in Kendo is to copy every single motion of our sensei. In my case, even though the late Tsurumaru sensei and the late Murayama sensei were the main instructors at the dojo when I went to when I was a kid, and then before I left Japan, the Miyazaki sensei was directly teaching the kids, so I copied him every single motion, and also his favorite techniques become my favorite techniques because he executes those techniques a lot. So naturally, I copied those techniques because I see them a lot more than the other techniques. So his favorite techniques become my favorite techniques, and I execute more often. And it's like impression in English. You mimic the way a person talks and acts. So I not only kendo, I copied the way he bows, the way he talks. Right? I copied the way he does. Whatever he does, I just copied. Most importantly, I had the master pupil relationship. I cannot say the word pupil. That's why I have written, I have writing on this page. So please go and read it. It's not a teacher. We have sensei, and another word we have shisho. Shisho is like you like teachers are like everyone is teacher. No, everyone can be teacher, but shisho is the main guy you learn from. Okay, so it's like old style teachings. So once you decided to learn kendo, for example, kendo, you learn from that person only, and receive teachings, all kinds of teaching, not only kendo, all kinds of teaching from him. That is why in kendo or in Japanese martial arts or the way, we say spend 3 years to look for a good teacher than starting to learn 3 years earlier. So that's very important to choose a good teacher. That's why, because you're not only learning movements, the way you look at life is important than how to strike. Of course, it's kendo. Without kendo techniques, we don't call it kendo. So we learn life through the way of the sword, right? We have to learn how to use kendo to improve our life. That's the main thing. That's why all Japan, the Japan Kendo Federation has the concept of kendo. All right. So Miyazaki Sensei, he taught us. He still tells me how you should be living my life as a kendoist. So I think that is very important part of kendo as well. And keiko is exactly that. You don't want to change the way part. Maybe people change. You know, many people say it's always like this. Oh, good old days. When I was young, it wasn't like this. Young people don't do anything the way the young people don't respect old people anymore. It's It's always like that, right? Over and over. We change generations. Probably the same thing goes over and over. But there's one thing we shouldn't change. And I want to use uh, Komorizono sensei's words. I was reading this book called Reidan Jichi. It's a collection of Komorizono Masao sensei's Kendo teachings. And I happened to learn this from page 37 to 38. This is my translation. Of course, that is written in Japanese, so I would like to read it. Kendo itself doesn't change, but it is people who pass it on to the next generation change. It is a problem if Kendo changes because people change. The way of the sword should be one. Kendo practitioners must study the way that they were taught and pass it to the next generation correctly. That is the responsibility we must not forget. It is the way that we pass on to the next generation, not our own interpretation of the way. I think this is very true. We change. Our lifestyle changes, right? Our lifestyle changes, and of course, different culture, different ways. So these things change. People change, people are different, but the way, the teachings from the ancient, like the way of the sword, shouldn't change because we change. If it changes all the time, we will be lost. And we have to pass the way, unchangeable way, to the next generation. We shouldn't be passing our own interpretation of the way. I think that's very important. We cannot, of course, people are different, and probably even if we look at the same thing, we interpret that differently. So it is hard to say, but that's why instructors have to learn the way differently. So read a lot of books, get information from many senseis, and try to look at this way in many aspects, many perspectives. And we have to figure out what is the correct way to pass this way on to the next generation. And it is true that Kendo style has changed over the past 3 decades. So Kendo has been changed, but it doesn't mean the way should change, if you know what I mean. So it is our responsibility to pass the concept of the way to the next generation. Without passing that part onto the next generation, Kendo itself lose the way and it will get lost. So I don't know if I can, I could deliver the message I really wanted to send you, but if I didn't, please let me know, and please go to the Kendo-Guide.com, Kendo-Guide.com, and type Keiko, the meaning of Keiko, or Keiko, Keiko, should be there. Okay, and if not, I'll make sure I'll put link everywhere so you can see the link. And I want you to think about it as well. And I want you to go back to the International Kendo Federation's concept of Kendo, to discipline human character through the application of the principles of the sword. Are we forgetting it, or we are not? And Kendo is the way to do so. So without that, Kendo becomes just stick fight. Okay, so I hope you like the podcast and I deliver the message. And please do share this episode, or share whatever, share the episode you like with your friends, and that will help me to deliver message. And also, if you have time, come and visit kendo-guide.com for more Kendo information. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.